This is content marketing's opportunity to do a couple things. One is to bust out of the content marketing silo of we're doing our blog or podcast or video series over here. We got our creative thing and nobody else in the organization knows what the heck you're doing. To now moving in to say, look, we can do quite a few things. We can build the leading educational institution for our industry.
And that's a wrap. The weekly wrap, ending Friday, September 4th, 2020. This week, I'm wondering, should we be more controversial? And should Google replace our universities? And should you go all in when it comes to content marketing? So let's wrap it up, shall we? Our theme this week is controversy. Benjamin Rush once said, controversy is only dreaded by the advocates of error. That may be right, but as Prince said, I just can't believe all the things that people say. That's controversy. And this is the weekly wrap. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 85 of the Weekly Wrap, our weekly play on words that play in the world this week. This week, well, I've got a question about controversy and the controversy of controversy. And we've got an interview that's been a long time coming. My friend, my colleague, Mr. Joe Pulizzi. As always, I'm your host, Robert Rose, Chief Strategy Advisor with the Content Marketing Institute, and it's time to get this week's show underway. How controversial should you be? If ever there was a rule that 2020 has proven true, it's that on the internet, controversy is a critical ingredient of getting people talking. Controversy, or is it controversy? That pronunciation itself is a bit of a debate, is everywhere these days. You can't miss them. I mean, they range from the profoundly serious, like the state of our politics, civil rights, health, to the unmistakably silly, whether toilet paper should spool over or under. It's absolutely over, by the way. Anyway, literally anything can be controversial. And this includes the fact that, by the way, Merriam-Webster's dictionary says the word literally now also means figuratively. But I digress. In marketing, the development of controversial content is often itself a controversial topic between team members. Regardless of the actual beliefs on a topic, some see the opportunity of a brand taking a side in a provocative debate as a way to inspire conversation, get wider reach, pierce through the noise of the media. They see it as a kind of steganography, a way to embed a product or sales or brand message in the body of contentious content. One example of this, by the way, is Procter & Gamble's Gillette Razor 2019 branded content campaign, The Best Men Can Be. It intentionally addressed toxic masculinity behavior among young men during the height of the #MeToo movement. Those who see this campaign as a success will likely point to the extraordinary levels of heated engagement the campaign received. Those who see it as a failure will point to exactly the same thing. The critical factor of success is who is having the conversation and what is the conversation. So, should our brand take a more provocative stand on a hot topic, a quick hot take on an issue? Well, how much does your audience trust you? You see, interestingly, research shows that the level of conversation produced by a controversy is governed by two countervailing trends. As it turns out, the more controversial a topic is, the more interesting people find talking about it. However, At the same time, the more controversial a topic is, the less likely people want to discuss it because of how uncomfortable it makes them feel in sharing their opinion. In both cases, the passion and quantity of the opinion can be just as intense. It's just the desire to talk about it. The study also found that people were way more willing to talk about a highly controversial topic when it was with a close friend. So why do these things matter? Well, because it suggests that if a brand wants to be controversial on a topic, that it matters who is provoked, and that trust is a big factor when it comes to whether the audience will actually share in the right discussion. If I trust somebody, I'm much more willing to be engaging in a highly controversial topic discussion. And if I don't trust you, I may simply ask why you're talking about it at all. This idea of trust begins to explain why a company such as Gillette had difficulties with a campaign like The Best Men Can Be. They hadn't earned a level of trust from their audience that would enable them to feel comfortable in having that conversation. So yes, they did indeed create a lot of heated conversation, but ironically, the wrong topic and not with their audience. The very people they wanted to have a conversation with. So what they didn't realize is that just because we feel like saying something provocative doesn't mean anybody will care to be provoked. So now it's time for our interview segment, of course, and it's one that you might not believe hasn't actually happened yet. Yeah, that's right. We're 85 episodes in, and I'm finally getting my good friend Joe Pulizzi to appear on this podcast. Joe Pulizzi, of course, if there's some reason you've been under a rock for the last 10 years and don't know Joe, he is the Amazon best-selling author of Killing Marketing, which, of course, I co-wrote with him, Content Inc., and Epic Content Marketing, which was named a must-read business book by Fortune magazine. His latest book is actually a novel. It's called The Will to Die. It's his debut, of course, and he's founded three companies, including the Content Marketing Institute, which, of course, is being brought here by yours truly, of course. And he's launched dozens of events, including Content Marketing World. In 2014, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Content Council. And the podcast series, which of course is also with yours truly here, This Old Marketing, has been a wonderful, wonderful podcast adventure for us and has generated millions of downloads from 150 countries around the world. He is now the wonderful author of the Random newsletter, and that's the name of the newsletter. It's called The Random, delivered to thousands every couple of weeks. And maybe his most important work, I think, truly something that his whole family is involved in, is his work with The Orange Effect, which delivers speech therapy and technology services to children in more than 25 states around the U.S. So Joe and I have been great friends for a number of years, and we chatted, as of course only Joe and I will do, but mostly we talked about the opportunity in education in today's world and how brands may actually be missing out on one of the biggest opportunities to really exist with content and education in this sort of very weird year. Anyway, it's a really fun conversation, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Excuse me, sir. Who are you, and what are you doing on my show?
Hello. And as I told you before this little thing,
yeah.
How long have you had this show?
I have had this show. Well, this will be episode number 85, I believe.
Oh my God, it's worse than I thought.
I know.
85, and
85
I'm on.
weeks.
This
So
is
that's
the
a
first
year and a
time
half.
I'm on.
Yeah.
I am nothing. I have nothing.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
There's only so much of you I can take, my friend.
Now it's all coming together.
That
You
is
probably
correct.
thought about it every once in a while, but you're like, I just talked to him for an hour and a half, and I simply can't do another 15 minutes.
It is one of those things where if I thought you had something really interesting to say.
Oh, you didn't. You just went there. By the way,
no, of course it is because, look, here we go. This show we have been on a long time. and I wanted to save the best for last.
Oh, yes. But okay, forget all that stuff.
Yeah.
My son told me I'm supposed to say shenanigans something 3 times, and it's an Office reference, and you would get it.
I do get that. Yes.
What is the shenanigans? What?
Shenanigans. Saying it 3 times.
Shenanigans?
That's right.
Just shenanigans?
There you go. And now you've completed the circle. So when you show him this later, you will have look.
It's
quickly,
like Super Troopers. It's the same thing. Where's that? Yeah, Is that where it's from? Shenanigans? The restaurant Shenanigans?
Well, that's where the shenanigans I know is from from Super Troopers when they go. That's the restaurant that they actually go to.
and the meow is the best one.
Yes.
You remember? Okay, now we're really getting off topic. Remember the content marketing world? JK told me that I couldn't say meow twice during my keynote, and I said I got it in once. Something like content meow marketing, and I did that. And then at the end, I had to say it twice, so I just went meow. That was it.
And then we've got to get on topic here. There is a video of me at the very first Content Marketing World. David Meerman Scott bet me $20 that I could not get the word nipples into my keynote. And I managed to do it. And he actually walked. There's video of him walking up and paying me.
You know what? I remember that happening, and I didn't know until afterward. It was like 5 years later. You told me that was a thing.
I don't even know if that's not safe for work for this podcast.
I thought it was a drug deal, actually. And he was just being very obvious about the transaction.
It very well could have been. There might have been Grateful Dead, and you never know. All that. Hey, listen.
Yes.
So normally this is the part of the show where I say, tell your story and bring everybody up to speed. But anybody who's anybody knows who the hell you are. So what are you doing now? What the heck are you doing now for anybody who is wondering? I mean, I'm
not even going to go into any detail on that, but here's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I just now in my inbox, I got a notification that I won an award for my mystery novel, The Will to Die.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't know where it's from. I have to look at it. It was just happened, but I said, this is more important. I had to put the award thing to the side because I said, I have to talk to Robert. Very important.
I love it. Well, tell everybody about the novel really quickly here, because it's an amazing book. I've had the chance to read it twice, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you were one of the early reviewers. Thank you very much. So real quickly, it's Will Pollitt is the main character. He runs a marketing agency in Cleveland, Ohio. Go figure. And I'm not giving anything away. His father passes away. His father runs a funeral home, and Will, growing up in the funeral business and finds out his father dies, has to rush home to Sandusky, Ohio. And from that moment on, a series of unfortunate events happen, and people end up dead. Of course, it's set at a funeral home, but other people end up dead, and it goes on from there. So I mix my passion in marketing with myself. I grew up in a funeral home from a funeral home family, and that's it. But thank you for letting me say that. But I have to tell you, the reason why I wasn't just saying I got an award. Here's the funny thing about it. It says in the body, it says, great, congratulations, you just won an award. The problem is when we initially reviewed it, your review is a 3 out of 5, which is not worthy of an award. But somehow I got in for an award, so they have to rejudge it because they can't give an award to a 3 out of 5. They have to have at least a 4. So this is the conundrum. So it's like an average book, but it got no. Like, what is that? What does that tell you as an author? It's just so. It tells
me that reviews don't mean anything. Is what it tells me.
Neither do awards then.
Yeah,
because we have to rejudge it because it doesn't meet our criteria, even though you were as average could be when it went through the first time.
That's right. Right. Well, in today's world, everybody gets a trophy, Joe. So
that's it. It's a participatory participation, whatever. So anyways, I'm doing that, working on the next version of my book, Content Inc., which you'll be in that, of course, and trying to get through just like everyone else, right? Trying to muddle through this thing.
Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, it's been a very weird year, and the fact that it's September and that right now, were this any other year, we would be freaking out because this coming week would be Content Marketing World.
That's right.
And, we're delayed until October this year. And of course, going fully virtual and all of that. I know, and it's also the time of year when your kids are going back to school, and your kids in particular, one of them going off to college, for crying out loud. I mean, how fast time is flying by. What are you seeing when we think about content and education, and especially when it comes to, I mean, I know one of the things you're going to touch on in your keynote is this idea of the sort of evolution of building audiences and higher education and all of that. What, I mean, is it something you're seeing now with, with what's going on with your kids?
Well, absolutely. I mean, just to, I've got a senior in high school who's going to do remote classes, so at least for the first semester. And I had a freshman in college that was supposed to go off to college that is now staying home and taking remote classes. So it's exactly the same as last year. They're just here more. So that's interesting, little twist with the whole thing. But so it gets, I have been obsessing a bit more about higher education than I normally would. And of course, I have to put the content marketing lens on it. And there's a couple things going on, and I've done a bit of research on this. I thought that the closings of universities, that this would be a new thing. This has actually been happening for a long time. If you look over the past decade, there's been a lot of mostly small private universities that have gone under, for whatever reason. It's in a lot of cases, it's the traditional setup of how a university kind of makes its way from revenues and expenses. And then now you get into very costly universities that, let's just say, haven't figured out the remote hybrid in-person scenario. And if they've gone hybrid or remote, are charging the same amount of money. So if they charge $50,000, so Harvard, for example, Harvard charges $52,000 for tuition, just for tuition. Now they're going remote. Is Harvard giving any of that back? Nope. Not at all. Regardless, the whole thing I'm getting to, and we could go on 5-6 points, higher education is under severe disruption right now. And then if you go and look at, and you listen to a little bit of Scott Galloway. I listen to Scott Galloway's Prof G show all the time. But he talks about this a lot. You have two industries that haven't yet been infiltrated by big tech: Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. You have healthcare, and you have higher education, where they're huge industries and the margins are way out of whack. So here you got to come big tech in. And then you and I talked about this last week on the podcast. I think we were talking about Google launching their certificate program, where they are, they're launching don't go to college, go take our digital job certificate program and forego the $50,000 at whatever university. Big tech, Google will take care of this for you. Long story short, whether it's big tech or not, higher education, it's not only under disruption from a business model standpoint. You now have not only younger students like my boys, but you have people like you and I that we'd always like to educate ourselves and we want to take classes or whatever. We're now looking at alternatives to education that we've never looked at before. This is the big thing. This is a change in buyer behavior, where we're thinking, oh, it's okay that you don't graduate from high school, you get a GED and you go on and do whatever you want. Before you'd be like, oh my God, why would you even think of that? Today, it's a scenario that we actually thought of with our youngest, because we're like, okay, he's not going to get anything out of this high school thing because they haven't figured it out. It's a catastrophe. So my point is, long story, very long-winded to get to this point. I know, you're used to me, so it doesn't matter. Very long-winded is the fact that this is content marketing's opportunity to do a couple things. One is to bust out of the content marketing silo of, we're doing our blog or podcast or video series over here. We got our creative thing and nobody else in the organization knows what the heck you're doing. To now moving in to say, look, we can do quite a few things. We can build the leading educational institution for our industry. We can lower human resources costs. So we want to bring in HR into this. We can make it even better for the sales team, because we can get basically all the up and comers in the industry loyal and trusting with the story we're trying to tell, because we've been their educational experts for a long, long time. So that of course leads into marketing and building that entire thing. And talk about the employee. I mean, we talked about HR, but the recruitment costs that go way down, and you're able to mold students to fit jobs that would have taken you months or years to train into positions. I just think there's never been a better time for content marketing to go a little bit out of its safe spot into an area and say, look, let's make this thing really work. Let's put this content marketing jetpack on and see how fast and high we can go, because now that buyer behavior has changed and all the disruption is already in the system, we can come in there, and for our industry and our niche, we can be the educational resources. Thank you. It was a pleasure being here, Robert.
Well, so Mr. Pulizzi goes to Washington and filibusters his way into our hearts and minds. Look, here's the thing. I think you're really on to something. I think that, you and I have talked about this many times, but where we've asked the question rhetorically, I guess, to say, where is GE in this? Where is Unilever? Where is P&G? Where is IBM? Where is, just count the Fortune 20 and say, why are they not building their own pipeline of employees using an online education and free, content in order to do that as part of their business model? And and a lot of people would say, well, that's not really marketing. That's just but it is. It's if you start looking at what we're doing from a brand perspective, as we're trying to not only recruit new customers, but recruit new employees to be able to service those customers, it's part and parcel. It's everything we do right now is to build the pipeline of future value. And what better future value than looking at the pipeline of our employees? And, and you don't have to be GE, or you don't have to be, Apple or Google in this case to actually get that level of value. Imagine just for a second doing this at the local level, right? Doing this at a local level where you're a small business or maybe a medium-sized employer in some town in the Midwest, and how building an educational program. I mean, there are already companies doing this, right? We should be clear that, there are companies. Lincoln Electric is a great example of this, right? Where they've got an entire university level course for how to become a welder and all of the professional development around that. But there's so much opportunity here to creating marketing and content for this.
And let's be blunt about this. This is a profit center. You could make it free. Absolutely could. But I also think that people are open to buying from the Lincoln Electrics of the world, the GEs, the Amazons. I mean, I talked about this in my other podcast that I have, not This Old Marketing, but another one.
How many do you have now?
I just have two, Content Inc. and This Old Marketing. I can't do anymore. I'm retired. I technically don't work.
That's right.
So anyways,
that's right.
If you wanted to get the best education on the supply chain and logistics industry, who offers that? I mean, who would offer that? You tell me.
Well, you mean on the education side? I mean, I'd probably go to a company, interestingly enough, like FreightWaves or something like that.
FreightWaves.
Yeah.
FedEx, UPS, Amazon, right? We just named. So we don't even know that we've gotten past this bias of certain universities and getting certain jobs. Those days are gone. Now, will we see the remnants of that for the next 5-10 years? And are the Harvards and the Stanfords and the Yales going away? No, they're not. But you know what is going away? After the first 50 private institutions, you're going to have about 500 that are going to go out of business here. Well, it creates a big vacuum. Now, two things are going to happen. One, do you want the Amazons, the Apples, and the Googles to swallow that all up? Or are you, company VP of marketing, CMO, whatever, going to take advantage of that and say, wow, we really have an opportunity here.
And that's
what the innovative companies are doing this.
It's the interesting thing, right? Because something else we've talked about before is this idea that one of the reasons that we don't see this happening in other areas, forget higher education for just a second, but we don't see this happening in technology or in consumer packaged goods or whatever, in content marketing, is because there's this cultural, I think the technical word is skeeviness, but this technical discomfort that the culture has with product companies becoming media companies, right? We don't have any problem with media companies becoming product companies. We don't have any issue with Disney selling dolls or, little cars or toys or anything like that. We're totally good with media brands becoming product companies. But for some reason, we have a really hard time thinking about the idea of Starbucks becoming a daily newspaper, or the idea of GE offering higher education, or the idea of, Salesforce offering up the same kind of education as an MIT or something like that. We have a really tough time sort of disassociating that sort of weird thing that we feel like, oh, they can't do that because there's conflict of interest. It's like, really?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, right. And just to your point, about the fact that education and government were sort of the two industries there that hadn't been invaded by big tech. I think that's maybe the similar reason we haven't seen this yet, right?
Yeah.
Is because if we're skeevy about the fact that, a product company becoming a magazine, a craft becoming, a television network, or a P&G becoming a series of amusement parks, whatever that means. But the idea of some big brand becoming a university, like, man, that's just, it would be a hard pill for us to swallow right now, I think.
I wonder if it's made easier, or it's going to become easier. Maybe it is, and we're just not aware of it, because service and subscription models are taking over, where you have Netflix model and you have Prime, right, and you have Salesforce and HubSpot. They're all service. They're all monthly. MailChimp. They're all monthly fees. It's all a subscription model, and it's usually not about the product. It's about, the customer need, the customer central, and then how am I going to fill that, with multiple, subscription products, just like a media company would.
Yeah.
So maybe because of that, it's almost that gateway drug into thinking a little bit more outside the box, because the product model seems to be dying, where you have a product and you go through distribution and you have retailers. I mean, if it wasn't dead, it's certainly dead now. It's what we've seen happen with online retailing lately, where, you don't have to go through all these different sources as much anymore. Because I even thought with the whole COVID thing that a lot of these smaller retailers wouldn't, or the Best Buys even of the world, or wouldn't be able to make it. You know what they did? People don't have a problem going direct to source anymore and having that ongoing relationship. So I don't know. We'll see. I wonder, do you think that a big player will do something like this in the next 12 to 18 months, or do you think we're out?
I think Google is maybe the tipping point. I think when we see Google going after certificate programs, I think we may start to see some noise get made about this. So I do see, I've predicted that Apple would do something in this space for a long time. And I haven't seen them, that prediction hasn't come true yet, but I believe that a big company is going to I believe we'll see probably end of year, beginning of next year, somebody come out with some major initiative that's been happening while we've been in lockdown.
Do you think, secondary question, do you think that it happens organically, or do you think that some said player purchases an institution, a private institution?
Either. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah, could be.
Anyways, there's
Yeah.
a lot of options.
Yeah.
There's, if you want, it's like, oh, I got to go through accreditation and do all that stuff. You know what? There's a lot of colleges and universities that are just shut down.
Yeah.
You can just pick those licenses right back up.
That would be easy.
Yeah.
All right, my
like
friend.
that.
Well, this is obviously something you and I can talk about all damn day. Where can people, so if people want to learn about your average book getting an award, where can they read this book? And where
I can't. Yeah, I'm so excited about this average.
I want that on the front cover. The most average book to win this award.
Now I'm really thinking I might have something here. I mean, to win with a 3 out of 5 rating, that's really saying. I mean, to anybody get a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Not many people get a 3 out of 5.
It's really hard to be average. It's really, it's easy to be below average. It's easy to fail.
It's like running the 100 meters and winning backwards or something like that.
Right.
You can find everything at Joe Pulizzi, PULIZZI.com. And you can click on books and, I have a little newsletter called the Random Newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks.
It's such a great newsletter. I love that newsletter.
Yeah, so I talk about one kind of marketing content thing, and I talk about one kind of help be a better human being thing. And that's it, joepulizzi.com. And, you find like this old marketing podcast stuff.
I've heard of that. Exactly. Yeah, that's one thing. All right, my friend. Thank you so very much for being on the show today.
Thank you for finally having me. Hold on, I got to cross this off my bucket list. It's right. Okay. Oh, there it is, right there. Woo! I'm done. Now
it's time for the wonderful last segment of the show, which is, of course, one post on CMI's blog that I'd love for you to go take another look at, a third look at, a 25th look at. And I thought I'd bring one up from 2016. Yeah, so almost 4 years ago now. And it's right around this time, of course, where we usually have Content Marketing World. Of course, Content Marketing World moved to October this year. And of course, we're going fully virtual. But I wanted to bring up one from Joe's keynote from 2016 because it's a really great one and it fits right into the theme of the show, which of course is, should you go all in with content marketing? And it's from his keynote from that year. It's one of those things where we often ask ourselves, how much should we be putting into content marketing? And what Joe was talking about as he opens up in the article is he says, I always ask the speakers at Content Marketing World to cut the extraneous and jump right into the substance of their presentation, right? And so he says he's going to take his own advice with this post, and he does. He jumps right in, and he basically says, if you're not all in with content marketing, you should really not do it. Basically, if you're going to do it, do it. And he talks through sort of the research and some of the things that we've discovered over the years. By the way, some of those numbers really haven't changed in the last 4 years, but it's really about our commitment. So if we're going to commit to a strategy like content marketing, you really do need to commit to it all in. You need to actually do it well, do it correctly. Because so many businesses we see failing with content marketing are simply just trying it, experimenting, putting their toe in the water, and don't really have a ton of commitment to it. And Joe goes through a number of ideas and reasons why he thinks that's such an important. So it's a great post, wonderful sort of nostalgic callback to 2016 in Content Marketing World as we get ready for 2020, our 10th anniversary of Content Marketing World. So go check it out, won't you? And well, that's a wrap. Episode number 85 here. I hope you're all doing well out there as we start to reopen this whole country and do good things. Take care of each other. Wear a mask where you're supposed to wear a mask. Just do it. Wear one. I'm so grateful that you've decided to take 35 minutes out of your day to watch this show, listen to this show, read the post. And I'm really grateful for you. I truly am. And it's one of those things where we think about what we're doing here. We think about what we're doing all the time. And so if there's anything you want to see, any guests, any type of content, just let us know. And if you didn't like the show, like you didn't like it, like you just didn't like dig it at all, you're like, you came across it and you were like, what the heck is this? Well, in the immortal words of Eminem and Rihanna, just going to stand there and watch me burn? That's all right. Because I like the way it hurts. Just going to stand there and hear me cry? That's all right. because I love the way you lie. Not for now, but for now, good content marketing, yeah, it starts. It starts with a distinct point of view. Maybe provocative, maybe not, but a distinct point of view. If we're going to be right for many, we've got to be willing to be wrong for a few. It is our distinct point of view that builds the trust that we want from that audience and the affinity to our approach, our brand's approach to solving their problems. However, if we overestimate that trust, then our willingness as a brand to put out a highly controversial point of view, it comes at our own peril. Because we may be encouraging exactly the wrong conversation for exactly the wrong audience. Put simply, the old saying that all publicity is good is wrong. Wait, is that controversial? So the controversy of controversy, it comes down to our self-awareness of how much our audience trusts us on the topic that we want to talk about. We may believe it's important to say, but our audience determines whether or not it's important enough to talk about. It's your story, folks. Tell it well. See you next week on the Weekly Wrap.